hard, don't need rest. No breaks when you're chasing success. You snooze, you lose, no redos. Only get one shot, there's no sequel. Have fun, love what you do. Live right, be your own individual. Stay sharp, play smart, this is your life. I don't know much, but I know you don't live twice. Don't waste it, yeah, don't waste it, yeah, don't waste
Welcome to Unsung Heroes, where we highlight some of our most heroic citizens found in your very own communities. I'm your host, Chrissy Morales, and on today's episode, we have a very extraordinary guest who will open your eyes to a tale of perseverance. Today, it is my honor to introduce Travis Wolfe. Welcome, Travis. How are you?
I am outstanding. Thank you so much. It's my honor to be here.
So, Travis, can you tell us more about the empowerment group that you have?
Yes, absolutely. Well, Wolfe Empowerment Group is the catalyst for exceptional achievement. And what I do is I empower individuals to pursue a worthy ideal, to achieve your life's goals and limitless success, regardless of your circumstances or your environment.
Wonderful. And can you go into more detail about, your background? What motivated you to do this?
Well, I am the father of 3 wonderful, wonderful children. Mm-hmm. I have a very beautiful wife, and I have a home that I own, and cars that we own, and a dog, and I got a white picket fence around my house to really just put the icing on the cake for that American dream that I designed for myself. But although I have a lot to be grateful for, at one point in my life I wasn't fulfilled.
Why weren't you fulfilled? Can you tell us more about that?
Certainly. I'm a sergeant in the police department, and I had also joined the military at 29 because I love service. I love to serve. And holding open a door for you and you saying thank you and being appreciative of that, mm-hmm. it is what I live for, right? That moment when people appreciate me. Right. So doing things for other people is something that I have an insatiable desire for. And being injured on the job as a police officer, mm-hmm. nursing my back from a back surgery I had, wow. I wasn't fulfilled. I was sitting at home and I wasn't happy with my life, looking at everything in perspective. And I was sitting at home playing video games 10, 12, 15 hours a day sometimes. And I wasn't doing what I love to do, which is to help people. So I don't subscribe to depression, but mm-hmm. I wasn't me. Mm-hmm. So while I was trying to figure out what I should do with myself and my life to get to that place where I'm happy, mm-hmm. I came across this video on either YouTube or Facebook. I don't really remember, but mm-hmm. there was a video of a woman on the Steve Harvey show, and she was talking about her life, and she was telling us her story about her particular situation in her life and how she became this great, I think she was a motivational speaker. I found out later. Mm-hmm. And when she told her story, it was a great story. I watched the crowd, the audience, they were captivated by it. It was emotional. It even sparked a little emotion in me. And I was like, wow, that's a good story. But when people hear my story, they tell me how that story is so inspiring and how they believe after hearing my story that they can do anything and how my story is so great and how God's brought me out of so much. And I'm like, wow, if her story can do that, imagine what my story can do. So I decided to put it in a book.
Wow.
I personally don't like reading, so I realized that other people don't either. So I said, you know what, I'm going to become a speaker and speak about it and write the book and give people every medium they can to hear their story because the world needs to hear this message.
Right. And what is that message that you're trying to relay to the audience? What is that?
My message is when you become determined not to lose, that's when you'll win. I've had a lot of tribulation in my life, a lot of troubling times coming up as a young man.
Can you elaborate on that?
Certainly. My mother, when she had me, she had given me away at birth, and she had gotten me back about a year later. But when she had gotten me back, we ended up being homeless for about 3 years. And by the time I was 4 years old, we moved in with my father, and that didn't last long. My father and my father's father, and we ended up leaving there and in an apartment in Woodbury, New Jersey. And we had a fire in one apartment, and we were able to get another apartment a little while later. And then we lived in that apartment where the fire, after everybody was out, the firemen and everything, we had nowhere to go, and we stayed in that apartment.
Wow.
For about
How was
a month.
that? How was that experience? I bet it must have been, very, very scary in a way.
It was very scary. It was my sister, my 3 sisters, myself, and my mom, and we shared one bed, one mattress in the living room.
Wow.
And eventually, once my mom was able to wipe all the soot off the walls, we ended up putting the mattress back in her bedroom, and that's where we lived for about a month, going to school, smelling like either our house just recently burned down or it was on fire at that very moment.
That's very troubling. Like I can't even imagine going through that. Like, how did the kids in school react to that?
Well, it just gave them more fuel for their fire, because it was actually a really racial time, and we were the only kids that looked like us in that school. So we were victim of a lot of racist behavior, kids calling us the N-word, spitting on us, and things like that. So we went pretty much through the gauntlet there, and then that fire situation didn't help us out that much.
That's awful. It's awful. But this happened to motivate you, right? This is what really pushed you.
Absolutely. All of these things in my life, all the victimization, being in the foster care system, our own family put us in the foster care system because of my parents' addiction to alcohol and drugs, and also their absenteeism. My family put us in the foster care system, and in the foster care system, I was abused physically. And
wow.
Eventually, one of my great aunts had gotten me out of the me and my sisters and I, out of the foster care system, and then I ended up back in the system. How
did that happen? What happened?
Well, my aunt's a great woman, and at 47 years old, she found herself the mother of 4 very young children, rather, and she wasn't able to keep taking off of work to come to my school because I had behavioral issues. She couldn't keep, sometimes you have to cut off the finger to save the hand,
right.
I say, and she told me if I continued to act up, she'd have to put me back in the system. And sure enough, she came back up to the school, and I knew on the ride home that it was going to be over for me. So
wow.
Soon enough, we had a long conversation, and DYFS, Division of Youth and Family Services in New Jersey, came and put me back in the system.
And what was that experience like when you went back? Is that when you started to realize, I need to get out, I need to do better? Or what was that breaking point for you?
I wish that was it. This time actually in the system was a lot different than before. This time I was starved, I was beaten often, and I was raped and molested by a 16-year-old boy when I was 11. And I ended up in a group home. And my father had gotten me out of the group home by the time I was 12. And him and I never really saw eye to eye. I refused to follow his rules. And I also didn't have a lot of respect for him at the time because of the things that I had gone through in my life. And I blamed him for a lot of my circumstances and my situation. And I ended up running away from my father at 15.
Wow.
And I went back to live with my great aunt, who had me at 1. Also had me at, I think I was 8, she got me, or 9, she got me, and put me back in the system. And then I was back with her again, but I was still the same Travis.
So at 15, you moved back with your aunt. You were out of the foster care system, correct?
That's correct.
Now, tell us from that point on what happened.
Well, I was the habitual rule breaker, and she couldn't handle it. She put me back in, and rightfully so. By this time, she's 50-something years old, pushing 60. And,
oh, wow. Can you imagine? Woo!
And then you have a rowdy 15.
Yeah.
15-year-old. So by the time I was 16, she actually put me out. And between that time and the time I was 18 years old, I had been in 6 different homes of family members and friends, and had been kicked out of every one. And that was the breaking point, because at that time I looked at myself and I was like, why doesn't anybody want me? Like, why does everybody who brings me in abandon me at some point? You know, and I started to look at myself, and I looked in that proverbial mirror, and I asked myself, I said, self, what's the problem? And at that time, I was a lot more handsome. My handsome self said to myself, self, you're the problem. And once I realized I was the problem and I had to change the things that I was doing, I started to do that. My father had gotten me into the church instantly when he got me out of the system, because he had gotten himself clean. He's been clean now, I think, for 23 years.
Wow, that's amazing. Good for
And
you.
he had gotten himself clean through Jesus Christ, is how he always puts it. So he got me right into the church, and that was the foundation that I had. But I ignored that for a long time. But once I came back to my foundation and started to build upon that foundation and started to ask God and believe that I would receive the things that I asked of God, I started to see my life change. And some other things happened. I was arrested,
How was that experience? How did that happen?
Just me. I used to say that the police officer who stopped us was racist. And regardless of the way that police officer felt and the things that he said that made me feel that way at that time, my actions are what got me arrested.
Right.
And I teach people not to blame other people for their circumstances or their decisions that they make. Sometimes we're in certain situations and, we're blaming the teachers, or we're blaming our parents, or we're blaming the police. But, what did you do? And I did some things I shouldn't have done, and got, had some lip service for the officer, and rightfully so, he arrested me. And it prevented me from becoming a police officer, which was my dream for a very long time.
Wow.
I had this, if I could tell a quick story, I had this.
Please do.
During that time, I told you when I was younger, after the fire, I had actually, because of my behavior, breaking windows and breaking gas meters and anything. I was just very
reckless
as a young man. I mean 5-6 years old. I was
5 years old doing that.
5 and 6 years old. When I was 6 years old, I was put in a jail cell by some police officers.
Wow.
In Woodbury, and my mother's very upset about it. But a friend and I got into some mischief, and we were pouring oil into the gas tank of snowmobiles in somebody's garage on the way to school. I don't know why we did it. To this day, I just don't know. But we ended up getting ourselves in trouble, and I sat in the jail cell. My friend was on the bench outside, and
oh wow,
it was a very racial time period where racism was. It wasn't quelled at any level. It was okay to do certain things and say certain things and be a certain way. So when my mother and my sisters and I had lived in the motel after we got evicted, this police officer, who happened to be a non-white male, showed us a level of love and compassion we had never experienced from somebody else outside of our family.
That's wonderful.
And
that's really nice.
Knowing that we were in the situation that we were in with our parents being on drugs, he would come around and just check on us and bring us candy or donuts or food from the neighborhood food establishments, and encourage my mother to get herself clean, to be a better mother to her children, and encourage us to he always tell us if we just stick together, that everything would be okay. And, him showing us that level of love and compassion, I recognize that can only come from God, especially in that time. I didn't believe anybody had that capacity.
That's right.
And especially for a family like ours. So he inspired me to want to give that feeling back to somebody else. And that's why I wanted to become a police officer. So me getting arrested kind of put the brakes on that for me. And it was
That
really
was your
tough.
eye opener.
That was one of my eye openers. I had many.
Yeah?
I was robbed at gunpoint. I had a
Wow.
gun in my mouth, and I knew I was going to die at that moment. And at the time I lived in a rough part of Philadelphia, Southwest rather, Philadelphia, and I was in college. But I happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and at that point I knew I was going to die. And when God brought me out of that moment, that was like, okay, I need to turn my life around, because if I can come out of this, then there's something else better for me, something bigger for me. So
Right.
I started to do things differently and started to believe God and ask for what I wanted and started to receive it. And from there, I met my wife, and man, ever since then, my life's just been outstanding.
Yeah?
Outstanding, absolutely.
Who would you say is your hero? Because you've been through a lot in your life, but who would you say is your ultimate hero?
That's a tough question. I have so many people along the way that helped me along. I think that this police officer, I would say, is my hero.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to find this man for years, and nobody in that police department in Brooklyn, New Jersey remembers this officer, or nobody remembers our story. So
Wow.
it's really tough for me because I want to show him what he had done. And he was my hero to defy the status quo, you know, and to do something that he did of that with that level of compassion.
It's like a miracle almost. It's like he was like your guardian.
Absolutely. We felt that way. He would come around all the time and make sure we're okay and check on us, hang out with us, talk to us. It was like a guardian for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Travis, for sharing your story. It's very in-depth, and I'm sure that a lot of people in the audience can really feel heartfelt by it. But coming up, we'll find out what makes Travis an unsung hero.
I got tired of being a victim, tired of being a loser. I had become determined not to lose no matter what, and in turn I had learned how to win.
Welcome back to Unsung Heroes. I'm your host, Christina, and I'm here with Travis Wolfe, the CEO and founder of Wolfe Empowerment Group. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So the audience has been waiting to hear this big question. Why do you think that you are an unsung hero? What makes you an unsung hero?
Wow, that's a powerful question. What makes me an unsung hero? Well, I don't think I'm anybody's hero per se. I believe that I know that God's called me to do a certain thing in life. I know that God has a mission for me, and there's a path that he wants me to walk upon. And my mission is just to fulfill and do God's will. I'm not unsung. I get what I deserve when I do God's work.
Right.
And I truly believe that. I think that that all the praise that needs to be sung needs to be given to God.
Wonderful. I think so too. So what would you leave the audience with? Like young kids out there who are going through the same thing that you're going through. What would you say to them right now?
Well, what I would say to them is if you have any ambition, any dream that you want to achieve in life, and you should, you have to absolutely believe that you can achieve it. If a guy like me, with the circumstances like mine, can achieve what I've achieved in my life, you can absolutely achieve greater things. Each and every one of us is a child of God, and we are meant and built to do great things in this world. And if you just simply become determined not to lose, that's when you'll win.
That's wonderful. That was really, really touching. Now, where do you see yourself going on with this organization? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Honestly, Chrissy, I don't look that far. I don't look as far as 5 years. I see so much further than that. I don't think there's no plateau for me.
Okay.
So I set my goals, I set high ideals for myself, and I strive to achieve them. And every goal that I've ever set in my life, I've achieved it, and God's allowed me to continue to achieve great things in my life and even greater things than I've ever decided that I want to do. So I don't put a time frame on my capabilities because honestly, I can be where God wants me to be tomorrow. You know, I can be there in 2 months. So I don't know 5 years from now. I know I'm going to be doing something great.
Right.
Absolutely.
So what is your like next goal that's coming up? What is the next step for you?
Well, the next step for me is to take my company to the next level. I already have a great team working behind me, helping me to achieve my goals. And the next step for me is to get everybody who works for me on the payroll.
Okay.
and get them to take their own personal their own personal aspirations to that next level in their life as well. I want to keep those people close to me because they're all great individuals, and I want to help to cultivate their greatness and what they want to achieve and help them to go to the next level.
Now, if they wanted to look for you, you said you had social media. Where can they find you?
You can find me at wolfempowerment.com. That's WOLFE empowerment. You can also look at me on Facebook, facebook.com/wolfempowerment. And you can also find me at twolfempowers, TWOLFE at Instagram and Twitter. And also on Snapchat, Travis T. Wolfe.
Travis, it has been a true honor to have you on my show. And on behalf of Unsung Heroes and Internet Advanced Media, I would like to honor you with this certificate for being such an awesome person and being a hero in our community. Can everybody give him a round of applause?
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Travis.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on our show. It's really been truly an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much. I mean, the pleasure is absolutely all mine. I'm extremely honored I am grateful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, everyone, thank you for watching Unsung Heroes. Until next time, I'm Chrissy Morales. Hey guys, this is Chrissy Morales here, the producer and host of Unsung Heroes, and I'm looking for someone like you to be on my show. If you think you have what it takes to be an unsung hero, email me at tvunsungheroes@gmail.com. All right, let's take some selfies.